everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be an exciting first video for the channel. I've only done shorts up until now and some live streams, but looks like there's some exciting changes coming to Arena of Valor on November 15th. And with a little disclaimer, these seem to be leaks, number one, so none of this is guaranteed until the actual patch notes come out. Number two, as history seems to indicate, there will be some updates to the Garena servers first. These level patches and adjustments will come to level infinite, but they could be delayed maybe a week or so from what I'm hearing. So we'll keep our eyes after 11:15. We'll keep our eyes open November 15th and see if those patches come. And when they arrive, they'll be exciting, and you'll know when they come. So first of all, let's start just with the boring stuff. Bug fixes. It looks like there are just a couple little ones for a mage Dirac. Oh, another disclaimer. I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these names, so kill me in the comment section. Definitely let me know what I'm saying wrong in the comment section because I want to say it right. But I can pretty much guarantee you that one of these I'm getting wrong. So some bugs for this mage and excuse me, and Gebeneth. Don't know how to say that either. But the interesting bug is going to be this Amulet of Longevity and Hermes Select. Apparently, there was a bug in the game where if you took them on, equipped them and then took them off at the right time, you would get their effects permanently. Don't know how it worked, but it looks like that's going to get fixed in this latest patch. So that is it for the boring stuff. Now, the exciting stuff. This video is on the AOV Update English Facebook channel, and it looks like it has been leaked by whoever runs that channel. I'm not sure who that individual is or a group of individuals. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll just watch this video and talk about it as we kind of progress through it. I won't bore you with the full video first, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. So we'll just watch it and then I'll pause every now and again and talk about it. So first of all, we all know about Stuart. We've seen that coming for a long time. So Joker is getting reworked into Stuart. So that's not anything surprising. And then some hero buffs and hero nerfs. So let's go ahead and just start the video and catch these things as they come, because it talks about every single one of these later in the video. But first of all, and most exciting, battlefield adjustments. This is the new map. And from everything that I can tell, this is almost identical to the Honor of Kings map. And that is an interesting thing in and of itself, because it seems like the developers are getting more and more. We all know Honor of Kings is their baby. So if they're bringing more and more parity between the games, I think that's a good step. I think that's good news for the game overall, for our arena baby, our precious Arena of Valor. So first of all, that's number one. Number two, let's go through these changes as they describe them a little bit, because I don't quite understand a few of them. Like right here, I see the hook that's added to this minion camp, to this wildling camp. And I'm assuming they're thinking that hook is going to prevent people from kind of sneaking down this direction and getting to the tower. So the lane pushes, I'm assuming, is what they're talking about here. And the lane pushes are going to get a little bit more difficult. Not as easily accessible coming through here. And I don't know if you can jump those with like Ormar or Tulin. I don't know what kind of moves will jump over those, but That seems to be one thing. They're making the lane pushes a little more difficult. We see the ganking potential is a little more difficult right here as well, because we have this outcropping and it's mirrored on the other side. All right, so we see that the Dark Slayer and the Abyssal Caves have switched sides. So they're on the opposite sides of the river now. And the interesting thing here is that there is now ganking potential for both sides, right? We've got... They talk about how the bush disappeared, but it doesn't matter because the cave switched sides. So who cares whether this bush is here or not, right? We see that the bush on the red side is right here on the back. So you'll be able to really spy both of these camps pretty easily and to see whether they're getting hit or not. So that'll be a good change just to kind of let you spy a little bit better. And check and see if the enemy team, you know, if they're ahead of you and you're just trying to figure out what they're doing, you should be able to sneak into these bushes and see what's going on a little bit better. So that's pretty interesting. Now this change right here is super interesting. They moved the river bushes in by 1/2 meter. You can see right there. And I think the next slide actually goes into describe it a little bit. So the bushes on both sides of the mid lane will be moved closer to the center about 1/2 meter. Now that doesn't seem like much, but look at what it does. You will definitely have your vision detected when going from river to the center if there is a minion existing in the mid lane. So if you're coming up the river, there is no more sneaking and camping in this. You might not pop on for long, but if anybody's paying attention to the map, they'll see you go into that bush. So that's kind of exciting. Changes the ganking potentials just a little bit in game, and especially early game, early to mid game, whenever the middle of this map is super important. This here I was super excited about, but the AOV update Facebook page, the AOV update English, said that this update here is actually put on hold. I guess when it got leaked, people complained about it. I personally love this. So again, hit me up in the comments section. Let's talk about it a little bit, because this, when entering enemy jungle in the first 4 minutes, so it doesn't happen the whole game, right? This is just the first 4 minutes. This is kind of a half preventing those early game buff steals. So you take off from your base, you go straight up the center of the map and jump in this bush and take the blue buff or the red buff or whichever one you're going for. This pretty much stops that, because in the first 4 minutes, your damage is reduced by 15%, but only if you're in the bush. See the little alert triangles are all about the bushes here. They're in all the bush locations. Beware of bushes that weaken. So if you're bold enough, you could still jump up there, take a buff, and not have any damage reduction and do the full damage to it. But you can't just, you can't go in a bush and sneak around. I think that's a great change. And it's only in the first 4 minutes. It really doesn't mess with anything too much. It just stops those early game ganks. And I tell you what, or it makes it more of a team fight. So rather than one person going and hiding in a bush, you maybe have your mid laner and one of your main laners, your dragon laner, maybe two of you jump up here and take this blue buff, or jump up here and take this red buff. Or maybe mid laner and the off laner come up and hit this. I don't know, but it changes things a little bit, and I thought it was a great change, but they've put a pause on that one for now. Here's another big change. Infinite Slayer. So killing the Lord Slayer no longer summons the Lord Slayer to push towers. Super interesting on that one. So no more will we have an infinite dragon pushing down the lane that we can push with in those late game pushes. So that's interesting. They removed that altogether. And then they adjusted the damage from the buff. So the Infinite Slayer buff that you get, what was it? Infinite Slayer's Wrath. was just a flat damage buff for the whole team. Now it seems like rather than taking this every time dealing damage to the target with all this cooldown, it's going to an area of effect. So within 8 meters of a hero with the buff, every second and a half, it automatically deals 5% of the target's max HP true damage to heroes and 20% to minions and wildlings, up to 2 targets at the same time. I think this could potentially be a bigger deal than we think, because it's an area of effect damage within 8 meters. I'm not really sure how big a circle 8 meters is, but I think this could be a big deal for those matches, because you've got, let's say you've got your tank, you're doing this team push, you've got this, and your tank or your support is up in the middle of the fray. And when they normally wouldn't be doing that much damage, you know, tanks and supports typically are not huge damage dealers. They're dealing the target's max HP true damage. It has nothing to do with their abilities. It has nothing to do with the items that they've purchased throughout the game. They're just sitting in the middle of the fray, tanking damage and dealing true damage at the same time. That's going to be an interesting thing to deal with as well. And then the vanguards that have that's it says this is new, so evidently this didn't happen. When the vanguards go within a tower, after 1.5 seconds of stiffness, and stiffness down here is described as temporarily immobilized and does not attack, the next powerful attack or boosted will disrupt the tower for 2.5 seconds, one time. So that is another really interesting thing, because the Infinite Slayer Vanguards do more damage to towers. So if they're getting in the tower and have 2.5 seconds of attacking the tower without receiving damage, that's just that much more damage they're doing to the tower. So that's an interesting change as well. But this Infinite Slayer change is huge. And then the next screen shows us another Infinite Slayer change that I think is awesome as well. Right here. Infinite Slayer will appear randomly. So at the 15-minute mark right now, at 14 minutes, the Holy Dragon despawns, and it's not available for the rest of the game. So you've got up until 14 minutes to get those buffs and the gold and the other advantages of the Holy Dragon, the light strike damage and all that. But after, and then at the 15-minute mark, Dark Slayer turns into Infinite Slayer. So at the 15-minute mark, it will no longer automatically spawn in the Dragon's lair, or in the Slayer's lair, which I think can give an advantage to one team or the other, honestly. So it's going to be it's going to randomly bounce between caves. So that's going to be interesting. And then the other thing is, whenever you defeated the Infinite Slayer currently, you got a 40% max HP permanent shield. So 40% of your max HP. It was a huge shield. Now, I'm assuming it's while you've got the buff. So 90 seconds, you'll have this buff. Every time you get out of combat, you'll get a 15% shield. So you could jump in with your 15% shield, do some damage, jump out of combat, and get that again for 90 seconds. So rather than just a one-time shield that, you know, one team push and it's gone, you're actually getting a 15% shield every time you get out of combat. Another really interesting change. So that's going to make team fighting different. It's going to make the end game a little bit different. All of these things are going to change the way the game plays just a little bit. All right, balance adjustments to the heroes. Now, this is not a balance adjustment. Honestly, I guess it could be considered a balance adjustment, because this is replacing Joker. So Stuart, they're removing the fact that it uses mana to cast skills. They're changing, what is this? Normal attacks, skill 1 and skill 3 hit enemy heroes. They'll gain a 1, 2, and 3 energy stacks for 5 seconds. Reaching 4 stacks will reset the enhanced skill 1 and gain a 50 to 80% attack speed and 20 to 30% movement speed for 6 seconds. At this time, normal attacks hit any target. It reduces the cooldown of skill 1 by 1.5 seconds. Also, a kill helps to make skill 1 return faster. So it kind of looks like they are changing the cooldown just a little bit of skill 1. And then they're removing energy stack creates enhanced attack that deals additional damage. So they've removed the enhanced, the boosted from stacks. I don't know how this character plays, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. So keep that in mind. And then, oh, here's some more things. You can pause and read it. Again, it looks like they're nerfing the physical damage of skill 1, and they're nerfing the cooldown reduction of skill 1. Then skill 3, the sequence of actions increase stiffness and stun respectively. So they're kind of, I don't know, it's a slight buff to the stiffness and stun. A slight nerf. No. It's an early game nerf and a late game. No, an early game buff and a late game nerf to skill 3. And then they're nerfing for cooldown reduction as well. This is all for Stuart, the new hero. All right, now, heroes that already exist in the game. This is Thorn. He is a marksman, and it looks like he's getting buffs across the board. His passive is getting a slight damage buff. Blue bullets on skill 1 and skill 2 are getting a buff. And according to these, I don't know, these tier lists here I can't vouch for, but according to this, these slight changes are moving him from an E to a D tier hero. And then Laville, passive is getting a buff. Attack is equal to 40%, so it's going to 50%. So getting a little bit of a damage buff there. Also another marksman if you're not aware. Valheim, I was really surprised to see. Number one, I'm surprised to see, and this could be a hot take, I guess, from a relatively inexperienced player, because there are, 100 heroes, and I've played maybe 20 of them, so I'm still getting into the game, still learning a lot, but I've played against a lot of Valheims, and it seems like he's got a lot of stun, a lot of movement speed already, but it looks like they're buffing the passive to give him a 6% movement speed per stack rather than 5%. They're reducing his mana costs for skill 1, which is his damage, area of effect damage attack. So he can hang in a fight a little bit longer, especially early game. He does tend to run out of mana. So this is an interesting buff. Raz is also getting a buff. Energy cost for skill 1 is going down. Energy cost for skill 3 is going down. So again, mana charges are going, it was a little cheaper to run. All right, Tiri getting a nerf. On the first attack, enemy heroes hit will be pulled to her weapon. They're removing this altogether. So it looks like it's an area of effect, kind of a pull, maybe a crowd control kind of a thing. And so she's getting a nerf on that. It's getting removed altogether. They claim it's taking her from an A tier to a B tier marksman. Chognar's getting a nerf, which again, I don't know. I don't know that he needed a nerf, but they're reducing his damage by instead of 5 to 15%, it's going to 3.5 to 10.5%. Xanis, it's interesting getting a secret buff, I guess. His main skill 2, does a sweep around him. If he hits an enemy of any variety, a minion or anything, he gets the attack speed increase and a lifesteal increase. And that's kind of his main way to do damage. You do his ult, then you do the skill 2, and he's able to rip through armor and that sort of thing because he does true damage with his ult. This takes away the need to hit any enemies or minions. So that could make Xanas pretty powerful, in my opinion, because he could charge his attacks before entering into a team fight without having to find a minion or get damage from a hero first before he goes in. This is another one that I'm probably going to mispronounce. Zeta, Zata. Skill 3 is getting a cooldown nerf. So again, a secret adjustment. These won't be in the patch notes, but they're claiming that they're coming. So slight nerf to that hero. Now this is another one. I love this one. Going to be super exciting to see how it works. Execute currently is a little bit on the useless side. It has too long of a cooldown. I always thought it has too long of a cooldown. Even back on the Switch days, Execute never did anything for me. And now it's getting a cooldown reduction, which is making it much more usable. And directly killing an enemy hero helps Execute reduce 90% of the cooldown. So now, can you imagine? This is working a lot like Butterfly's backstab or something like that. If you can use your Execute and actually get the kill, in 6 seconds, you'll have Execute back up again. That could be huge. I don't know if this will stick in the game. I don't know. I mean, odds are they'll release it and have to nerf it with the next update. That's going to be an interesting one as well. And then Sprint is getting a buff. Rather than having a 70% movement speed decaying to 30 seconds over 10 seconds, it's instantly going to just be a 30-second movement speed for 10 seconds. And if you're out of battle, it'll be a 50%. It'll add 20%. So it'll be a 50% movement speed for 10 seconds. So you won't have this decay. It'll be a little more of a consistent speed bonus on your sprint. And then, of course, during this time, if someone tries to slow you, that effect will be reduced by 50%. So good adjustments for sprint. And then, is that it? Have fun climbing your rank until next time. So that's all the adjustments for the November 15th release, coming out in just a few days. As of the time of this recording, it is the 11th. And so in just a few days, it'll be released on from Timmy, and then Garena and Level Infinite and all those other individuals will have to release it on their own. So again, probably see this directly on the 15th on Garena, maybe a little bit after that. You'll know when it goes into effect, so keep an eye on the map. As soon as you see that map change, everything else is most likely in effect. So I'll test it here on the channel. We'll see what made it into the patch, what didn't make it into the patch. I'll also be reading the patch notes so we can go from there. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out and see exactly what they implement on Level Infinite servers. Have a great day, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you out there on the battlefield.